Chickens are usually the go-to homestead animal people tend to start with. They're cheap, they're easy to find, and you get something back from them pretty quickly. But there's a lot of things that they don't tell you when you first get chickens. And there can be a pretty high learning curve. So hopefully I can save you some headaches with these 10 things that I've learned in my past 3 years of keeping chickens. We started with chickens after finding some very cute baby chicks at the garden center. Oh my god, they were adorable. But they actually grow pretty fast. So those cute little baby chicks won't stay that way for long, which brings me to the first thing I've learned. Sometimes you get roosters. And that isn't a bad thing as long as you're okay with keeping roosters. Now, I'm fine with having roosters in our flock because one, we're allowed to have roosters on our property. If you don't live in a community that allows roosters, then you will need to account for that, because if you end up getting a rooster or two in your batch of chickens, in your little batch of chicks, then you're gonna have to find something to do with them. Now, this is something that you're gonna wanna consider if you're ordering straight run chicks. If you go to a hatchery website and it gives you an option for all female chicks or all male chicks, it also likely has an option for chicks that are called straight run, meaning they are not sexed. And that means that there's a possibility, a very good possibility, that you will end up with more than one rooster in your flock. Now this is my flock over here. You can see they're out free ranging. 1, 2, we have a girl over there. And then we got my roo over here, kind of by all this pile of stuff we have to get rid of. But this is my rooster, and he keeps my hens pretty safe. He's pretty docile. I will say I've had roosters in the past that are definitely not docile, but so far he's been pretty good. He's not like overly friendly or anything. As you can see, I'm getting pretty close to him and he's just fine. But definitely that's something to consider. Roosters are a little bit more, or tend to be a little bit more aggressive, or can be more aggressive than hens. And even if your HOA, or you don't have an HOA, or whatever it is, your community allows you to get roosters, keep in mind that roosters crow, all right? And you even might not like that sound. I personally don't mind it. We have them far enough away from our new house that it doesn't make a big difference. But if you have more than one rooster, you're gonna get some crowing around the 3 or 4 month mark. So just be prepared for that. And if you have a flock of chickens with roosters in it, you're gonna wanna make sure that you have the appropriate ratio. Now you can see I have mostly hens here with 1 rooster, but up until very recently we had 2 roosters, which was a little bit too many roosters for the size of the flock that we have. And you can see how badly the hens get beat up on if you have too many roosters. Now this is because she was definitely the favorite. Most of them are not like that. As you can see, most of them have the majority of their feathers still on them, if not all their feathers, just like this girl up here. But this one in the back, and I'm trying to get close before she runs away like that, you can tell she's been a little bit more loved on than some of the other ones. Now while I'm in here, you're also going to note that chickens are pretty messy, which is my next point. All right, chickens don't have to be super messy. They're definitely cleaner than other animals like ducks, but as you can see, they've tipped over their feeder. The top of the feeder has like some poo on it, all right? And as I'm walking around, you can see there is some stuff on the ground, right? Which is not just mulch. Now, this is mostly contained to their pen. There are definitely ways to, reduce the messiness, such as having a larger feeder like this. I actually ended up they didn't tip it over. I ended up tipping it over for them because the bottom parts got clogged, but they got clogged because chickens are messy. All right, one of the ways we reduce messiness with our flock of chickens is by having a little peck system here, all right, for the water. So if they come and peck, that creates less of a mess, right? And then also less of a mess right under the water, and it's not like all mud. But that is something to keep in mind. If you're planning on getting chickens, you will want to make sure that whatever area you are keeping them in is an area that you don't mind being a little messy at times. All right, so number 3 is something that I completely was not prepared for when we first got baby chicks. And it's kind of a downer, but I feel like I have to share it with you guys because you guys deserve to know. And it is that if you get baby chicks, all right, some of those baby chicks might not make it. All right, and I mean they might not make it in the sense that they will die pretty quickly when you get them from the hatchery. But this also does apply if you have a broody hen. The chicks that the broody hen hatches out sometimes don't make it. That's what happened with us. We had a broody hen and she hatched out, I think, like 2 or 3 baby chicks, and only one of them made it because she kind of like kicked the other one out of the nest, and then one day the other one disappeared. They're not very hardy. Chickens are hardy, but baby chicks not so much. So once you bring them home, you're gonna want to set up, you know, a heating lamp or some sort of a brooder heater or something for them, and you're also gonna want to give them some electrolytes. All right, that will ensure that they have the best possible chance of survival, because it's not uncommon for baby chicks to not survive. All right, so for the next thing that I want to share with you guys that I had to learn the hard way is their water. All right, so we have a rain barrel system. This collects rainwater. In our last coop, we actually had this like connected to the top of the chicken coop with like a gutter system that ran into this. For right now, we just have it like this, and it collects water pretty much just the same. But we have it connected right to this pipe here that I was showing you guys on the inside of the coop. Now, this is something that is really important in our coop, all right? And I would encourage everybody to get some version of this, whether it's the little cuppy things, and I will link to these little poultry nipples is what they're called. I will link to these down below. As I showed you, it just like the chicken pecks them and water comes out. Besides creating a mess, this has a very important function at the same time, and that is that it prevents my flock from getting sick, all right? Chickens will drink just about anything, all right, including standing water with their own poop in it, which is super gross, but also a really big health hazard for them because that makes them sick, like really sick. And then they end up getting this illness called coccidiosis, all right, which then you have to treat for. And I can tell you from experience, all right, it is not the way to go. So that is one of the reasons that the poultry nipples are super, super important for us, because we've had that issue in the past where they're drinking their own poopy standing water, and it was a nightmare. Now, at some point, you do have to figure out what to do with chickens who are no longer laying eggs, or roosters or chickens that have just become really mean. I have a rule in my flock that I get rid of any chickens that are unruly, any chickens that are mean, like defeathering the other ones in the flock, or any animals that no longer serve a purpose, like laying eggs. Now, I know that some people don't agree with this, but we do raise animals for meat, which means that at some point in time, we get rid of and butcher out the ones that we no longer need. So when chickens stop laying eggs, or the ones that we specifically raise for meat chickens, then we butcher them. But even if you don't raise animals specifically for meat, you're gonna have to figure out what to do with your hens when they no longer lay eggs. Hens lay eggs for around 3 or 4 years. After that, it really does start to decline. And if you want to keep them as a pet, then great. You will, have lots of pet chickens. But the reality is that, you're going to be feeding them and spending the money just like you would as if you had a pet dog, with, in my opinion, a lot less fun than you would have with a dog. So if that's something that you're uncomfortable with, you might want to think about that before getting chickens. What do you do when they stop laying eggs? Will you keep them as pets, or is it time to send them to freezer camp? Now, another thing that I learned about keeping chickens, right, because chicken math is real, and once you have a few chickens, might as well set yourself up for the long haul. You'll likely have a whole bunch more chickens, all right? But this little contraption here, it is the run chicken door. You can see the chickens demonstrating for us. This thing comes down in the morning, or comes up in the morning, right? It opens this little latch here in the morning, and then when the sun goes down, it goes down and locks all the chickens inside at night. The main thing that we learned is if you want more chickens, you need more space. That comes in the form of a bigger coop like this one, trying to back up here, like this one that we just finished building, which is a pretty large size for our current flock, which means we can add more chickens if we want, or you're gonna have to let them free range, all right? And for us, that little contraption allows us to let our birds free range on our property. We have just under 2 acres, and they kind of free range during the day, and I don't have to worry about it. Now, of course, you can still let them free range without having that little automatic door, but you're gonna have to come out here in the morning to let them out, and then come back out here at night to make sure that the coop is closed so nothing gets in it. This is just a much easier and automatic way to do it that I don't have to worry about. And speaking of closing them up at night, all right, that is bringing me to my next point, which is that everything is going to want to eat your chickens. which is why we have this mesh all the way around our coop. All right, originally we did not have this mesh. You can see I'm kind of like keeping it down with some of these things up until I get to the point where I have the time to like bury this underneath. But this mesh prevents things from digging down into the ground and then tunneling their way into the chicken coop. All right, which has happened to us several times before. And I'm telling you, it is no fun to walk into your chicken coop and find a whole bunch of dead or headless birds. So if you recently set up your chicken coop, or if you're planning on getting a chicken coop, all right, make sure that it has some sort of predator protection all the way around the coop in the form of like a skirt or something, that things like raccoons and weasels and, you know, different bobcat type things, you know, all of these little animals that are carnivorous can't just bury through and have a buffet in the middle of the night when you're not paying attention. A lot of these coops do not come with that already, so pay attention. You will likely have to add that on yourself. Now, I know that you've probably heard the term pecking order, all right? And I will tell you that the pecking order is very, very real. So some of your flock, some of your birds in your flock are going to be the ones in charge, all right? This is often like a rooster. If you don't have a rooster, then like the female, the biggest female is often the case, tries to bully the other ones. And at first I didn't want any of my birds being bullied. I didn't want, you know, them ganging up on any of the birds. But what I very quickly learned is that I believe in survival of the fittest, and I'm not going to babysit my chickens out here. Some people do. I know people who do that, but I am not going to be babysitting my chickens, and that's just how nature works. So if you find, you know, some birds that are at the bottom of the pecking order and they are really getting beat up on, then maybe separate them, because that can be dangerous for them. But you're going to have to get used to the fact that the pecking order is real and there's not much you're going to be able to do to control it. Now, all of that being said, all right, we have discovered, or I have discovered especially, that chickens are one of the very low maintenance, probably the lowest maintenance homestead animal that you can start with. All right, I absolutely love my flock of chickens. I would never ever get rid of them, you know, unless they stop laying eggs, but that's a different story. I absolutely love having my flock. And as long as you set up systems to keep them low maintenance, or to make them even more low maintenance, I should say, all right, like the chicken water over here and this giant food container that they're eating out of right now. I only have to fill this up like once a month for them, and my roll-out nesting boxes that prevent me from having to even come in here to collect the eggs. I can just collect them from the outside, from that little metal box, without even having to open the chicken coop door. I mean, all of these systems really do help chickens to be even more low maintenance than they already are. And that is honestly how we are able to take multiple vacations every year. I know people who have lots of chickens, or, you know, any sort of animal really, and they are married to their homestead. They're married to their flock of chickens. They can't take a vacation, or they refuse to take vacation. But that is not how we are. We set up systems in combination with the fact that they're already a low maintenance animal, and we go on multiple vacations a year, and we absolutely love it. If you want to see exactly how we've set up our flock and our chicken coop and everything, so you can take multiple vacations every year without worrying about your flock, then watch this video here. I will leave it linked below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.